Hello and welcome to yet another episode of A Day in Film. We are on episode 14, still going strong, and a rare weekend upload. How great is that, guys? You already know what movie we're about to talk about, and if you can't tell, I'm incredibly excited. At the time of recording, I watched this movie like 5 hours ago, and I'm still it's the only thing on my mind. But before we get into this brilliant movie, I have to first ask you all to please subscribe and or like the video. It really does mean the world, and it keeps me going. You know, if you like this style of unscripted rambling about a movie that you may or may not like, then leave a sub or a like or a comment or literally anything, because it really does mean the world. And I'm very happy to see that you guys like the Substance video. Great movie. With all that out of the way, let's finally get into the topic of the video. Today, on September 28th of 2024, I watched Megalopolis, Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, in IMAX. So, before I get into the details of the movie, I need to first talk about what was happening around this movie for me. So, if you'd remember from my Thursday video, it was my first time ever volunteering for a local fair, and as a result, I decided to work on Wednesday instead because I wanted to see Megalopolis' premiere at like 7 or whatever on Thursday. And then I found out that my local theater wasn't playing it in IMAX because I think Transformers 1 had IMAX priority. So that really bummed me out because I wanted to watch this movie in IMAX and hopefully see the audience interaction thing that I'd constantly been seeing so much about. So then I ended up getting tickets to see Megalopolis at the Mann's Chinese Theater down in Hollywood, which I was incredibly excited to do. I've never been, and it's kind of an iconic landmark and theater. And finally today, or yesterday for those watching, which is everyone but me, I finally watched Megalopolis in IMAX only a day after release, which I think is pretty good overall. I think the only other movie I've been this early to was Across the Spider-Verse. But to summarize Megalopolis' plot, if you haven't seen it, which you probably have not, it follows Adam Driver's character. They all live in New Rome, like Rome, but like New York, but New Rome. Adam Driver's character, Caesar, going through Megalopolis, which is ran by Giancarlo Esposito's character, whose name I forgot, and he is an architect, and he is trying to basically fix New Rome, or at least his whole thing is that he's like a dreamer. He's like a passionate imaginer, basically. And this whole movie is built on the idea of dreaming and imagining. So, the big thing with Megalopolis for me was that I had no idea what to expect. I avoided as much promotional material as I could. I didn't even watch those early videos of the audience interaction thing because I wanted to be as surprised as I could be. Now, unfortunately, at my screening, the audience interaction thing did not happen. I think I would have freaked out, and this movie would have been a 12 out of 10 if it did, but it did not. Thankfully, the movie is still a excellent, brilliant piece of art. That's the thing about this movie, is that and you can't really say an objective light because you can't objectively judge a film, but from more critical side, if you're talking more about like how well the story's delivered and how well the characters are written, this movie does sort of flop. Now, I think the vitriol levels that you might be able to see on apps like Twitter or Instagram are definitely overblown. I don't think this movie is a complete jumbled mess. I think it is a little messy in a very characterful way, as silly as it is to say. But I think it actually ends up adding on to the experience. For more context, if you don't know anything about Megalopolis, this was a $150 million budget movie completely funded by Francis Ford Coppola and his billion other business ventures. And this all leads me to believe that Megalopolis was a true... It wasn't a movie for his fans. It wasn't a movie for anyone. It was a movie for himself. I think of this movie as being a personal artwork. You know, it feels so unabashedly him. It feels like he Francis Ford Coppola tore out his heart and placed it on the silver screen, and that's how Megalopolis got made. And the great thing about this movie is that it is so incredibly varied for its review, like review-wise. You will not see two consistent opinions online about this movie. You have people calling it the worst movie of all time. You have people calling it the best movie of all time. Like, people calling it a jumbled mess, and people saying it's a underappreciated masterpiece. And I'll be honest, I'm leaning more towards the underappreciated masterpiece part. I think this movie is so unique and stand out in its concepts and ideas that it will be studied in the future as a modern-day classic and a movie ahead of its time. To talk a little bit more conventionally about it, I know a lot of that is very personal, but that's why you're here, right? To talk more specifically about the movie, I think the story is very interesting, if a little fumbled while being told. I think the characters are brilliant, and the actors who play them are brilliant, and the way they're directed is brilliant. Adam Driver especially. There are a lot of characters in this movie who have really odd, weird little motions. Adam Driver at the start, this isn't a spoiler, but he's talking to one of the characters and said, "Go back to the club," and he shakes his head and wiggles his finger in unison, and it's so funny looking. It is hilarious looking. The cinematography in this movie is gorgeous. It feels very... it sounds lazy to say because this movie is literally about the future, but the cinematography feels very futuristic in this movie. It feels very ahead of its time, and especially with the design of Megalopolis and the city that Adam Driver's character is trying to build. It all just feels so, again, ahead of its time. I know it sounds stupid to say, but I think it's a very personal and unique movie. I don't think a movie like Megalopolis will ever get made again in the future ever, because this movie is not making its money back. This movie doesn't even have IMAX priority in most theaters. The marketing, the movie had to be made on Coppola's own money because it was so unmarketable that no studio would pick it up and give him the money he needed for it. And I think little tidbits like that are the reason I think of this movie as being such a piece of art more than a piece of entertainment, because the entire film is entirely Francis Ford Coppola's vision. The script is written by him, it's directed by him, it's funded by him, that means it's produced by him. Everything is under his light. It is not for his fans, it is not for any demographic of people, it's not for anyone, it's for him. It's not even for his family or his well, it is sort of for his recently deceased wife. There is a shout out, or not a shout out, sorry, an in memoriam thing at the end of the movie to her, but it's not for his daughter, it's not for his granddaughter, it is for him exclusively, and I adore that. I think of film as more of an art form than an entertainment medium, and this movie is by all means art. There is no better way to describe it than saying it is an artwork, and man, is this movie an artwork. The score is very, very good. The whole visual design, again, is just remarkable in this movie. It looks so good. I seriously cannot stress to you guys how good this movie looks. For being a new Rome, basically, like a new Roman Empire city that's based off of New York, it looks so good. I love the inclusion of real-life footage in certain scenes. I love the schizo editing. I loved every single creative choice about this movie, and I know it sounds like I'm defending it because it is Francis Ford Coppola, but I am defending this movie as much as I am because it is art. People complain about movies having plot holes and telling their stories poorly, and sure, that is a problem when it's clearly meant to be entertainment, but this movie is like an abstract painting being somehow stretched across the screen for 2 hours, 13 minutes, and it is beautiful. I cannot stress to you how much this movie has impacted me and affected me as an amateur film critic, because movies like this are the reason film is as advanced as it is. You don't get to movies like you don't get to movies like Avengers Endgame without first having the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then having the Once Upon a Times in the West and the Seven Samurai and all these beautiful artistic movies. This is a movie for the artists. This is a movie for the visionaries, and the entire movie promotes this idea of being a visionary and being a dreamer and being a hopeful person looking towards the future, and I just loved it. I gave it a 9 out of 10 because I have a rule: no giving any movies 10 out of 10 if they release this year. And this definitely isn't my favorite film of the year. It's definitely in my, at least the top 3, but it is not my favorite. I honestly don't have much more to say. This is a movie that needs to be watched because every single one of you watching will have a vastly different opinion to exactly what I just said. But yeah, sorry if I sound a little nasally. I think I am going through allergies right now, but I have no more to say. Please, for your own sake, go watch Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, because this movie will change your outlook on film and on life, depending on how much you like or dislike it. But that's actually all I have to say. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the theaters.